Hey mate, I see you and I want you to feel better because you're not alone. I'm serious. Engaged couples everywhere, like literally all over the world, are grappling with the harsh reality of wedding planning amid the ongoing cost of living crisis. And it's causing some people to make the decision to elope or cut back and in some cases even postpone their wedding until a time when they feel, more confident about their financial situation. The cost of everyday expenses like mortgage, rent, education, health, food. Don't get me started about how you can carry a $100 shop from the supermarket in your hands now. All of these things are taking larger percentages of our income than ever before. And it's also worth acknowledging that having a wedding in this economic environment is a luxury. So this episode is by no means a silver spoon sob story. However, that said, the results of the EasyWeddings annual report came out a couple of weeks ago, and they speak for themselves. Here in Australia, and many couples are absolutely stunned to discover this during their wedding planning research. The average cost now, 2026, for a wedding venue, in Australian dollars is $17,500, which is around $12,300 US dollars, or just over 9,000 English pounds. Now, from what I can work out for the UK, your venue costs vary very widely by type and location, season, inclusions, things like that. But an average for 2026, and remember, an average is, of course, not the cheapest, not the most exclusive, hovers around £8,000 to £11,000. And that would include your basic catering and packages, which is just over 15,000 to 21,000 Australian dollars and approximately 10,700 to 14,800 US dollars. Now, for our listeners in the States, this is why I saved you guys until last in this little comparison. According to The Knot and Zola and WeddingWire, the prices you're having to deal with swing hugely from state to state. You've got New Jersey topping it out at over 27,000 American dollars, California about 8 to 15,000, Texas 6.5 to 11, and Wyoming apparently has the lowest at just under $4,000. So this is like a range of 2,700 to 20,500 pounds. And in Australia, that's like, for us, about 5,000 Australian dollars to $39,000. That's an enormous span of prices there. And roughly, it means that the United States is both the least and most expensive country to book a wedding venue in. But the constant is that in Australia, the UK, the United States, the venue cost frequently takes up the lion's share of the whole budget, as in the largest percentage slice of whatever budget a couple is working with. And in my mind, that means that there are opportunities to make choices, compromises, and smart swaps that in turn can have the biggest impact on your costs overall. I'd like to think for the better. In this episode, my intention is to arm you with practical options tailored for diverse circumstances, because not every hack fits every couple. And that's the deal, as you know. That's totally okay. Everyone draws their own line on where and when to compromise and where to preserve the very heart of their wedding vision. So for some, if they skip the fine-bone china at the reception, it's unthinkable. And for others, they gladly share platters of sliders with their guests if it unlocks the dress of their dreams or maybe funds a live band playing long into the night. Stick around to find out what these 4 levers are that you can adjust on your wedding venue to help you either redistribute your wedding budget, go on a dream honeymoon, or slash your costs to save for another day. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve.
because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast.
Okay, lever number one, as in the thing that you can adjust to help reduce your wedding venue costs. Lever number one is timing tweaks. I didn't know how to express this, but let me explain. Frequently, this is the change that can make the biggest impact for you, and that is swapping the season that you get married in, having your wedding in winter versus spring or summer. Having a winter wedding can save engaged couples significant money compared to spring or summer because venues face much lower demand during off-peak months, like here in Australia it's June, August, or December to February in the Northern Hemisphere. And this allows venues to offer anywhere between like 20 to 50% discount on higher fees just to fill their calendars and recover the fixed costs that they have to keep the venue running. Peak seasons see intense competition for prime dates, driving up prices due to the high desirability for better weather, longer daylight for photos, lack alignment with school holidays, school breaks. So it makes sense. Seasonal changes can help you. But then the next level of the timing tweak is the day of the week you choose to get married on. Generally, weekday weddings save couples substantial money on venue fees, often around 20% or more compared to Saturdays. And this is just because venues experience lower demand midweek, Monday to Thursday. It allows them to offer steep discounts to fill otherwise empty dates and cover their operational costs, staff and utilities and such. And your weekends are peak days, especially Saturdays. They are prime slots. They are snatched up super quickly, 2-3 years in advance sometimes, by couples prioritising time off work, which can in turn drive up premium pricing because, it's high competition. It's a lost revenue opportunity from corporate or other events. And this dynamic frees up dream venues, gorgeous venues at, I wouldn't say bargain rates, but substantially lower rates on weekdays. And sometimes your vendors, sometimes photographers, caterers, things like that, sometimes, not always, they follow suit as well. And they might be able to offer you a reduced package as well. And then the third level of the timing tweaks lever comes down to the time of day you want your wedding in. And when you think about it, it makes complete sense. But a breakfast, a brunch or a lunch wedding save couples substantial money compared to your dinner or nighttime events, primarily because venues charge lower rates for those slots. It's, again, a reduced demand thing. And evenings are prime time for higher revenue bookings, like your corporate functions. Your food costs drop sharply with lighter, cheaper daytime menus, your lunches and breakfasts, eggs, pastries, fruit, salads, all those sorts of things are so much less than steak dinners, fish dinners, substantial dinner meals. The meals also require less prep, labour, less premium ingredients. The alcohol tab, your drinks tab plummets. It goes right through the floor because daytime guests just generally sip fewer drinks. So think mimosas or Bloody Marys versus a full open bar, hours of cocktails and things like that for your nighttime wedding. This shift just between a daytime celebration versus a night can halve your beverage bill. Having a daytime wedding celebration means a shorter timeline. It's hard to get it to go past like 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. That further trims staff overtime costs, sometimes rentals, natural daylight. It's going to cut out your lighting, some of your AV needs, etc., etc. So venue minimums favour daytime simplicity. Your food and beverage minimums are usually lower at lunchtime because the venue is trying to balance the supply and demand, and Lunch is almost always the less popular option compared with an evening event. Most couples are wanting an evening event, so venues know they can easily sell those slots at higher amounts. It's like seats on an airplane. If they're at the most popular times, on the most popular routes, they go for a higher price. It is literally the same thing. And if someone says no to a nighttime Saturday wedding booking, the venue knows that they can fill it with someone else that's right behind them. But lunchtime, brunch, breakfast is harder for a venue to sell. So the minimum food and beverage costs are quite often lowered to attract bookings. So midday events are trickier for guests to get to, no doubt about it. There needs to be time off from work. There needs to be wrangling the kids. Do they come out of school for it? Maybe there's after-school sport, there's traffic, blah, 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 blah. So demand is softer on those times of the day. And to make lunchtime worth opening a venue that offers food and beverage options, you need to make it worth opening the kitchen. You need to make it worth staffing the space. So venues drop the required minimum, so it's more appealing for couples. And a lower minimum is basically an incentive that says, help us fill this quieter time and we won't expect nighttime money from you. So the shorter length event also helps to reduce what's reasonable. Lunch and brunch weddings are much shorter. So with fewer hours of service, venues expect a smaller total spend and they structure their minimums to reflect that shorter window. In addition, because some venues can host 2 events in one day, if one is at lunchtime, one is at night, a lower lunchtime minimum can still make good business sense if they also have a full rate for the evening event. All that combined, in very simple terms, nighttime equals peak demand. There's generally heavier menus, more alcohol, longer hours. It means higher food and beverage minimum costs. Lunchtime, your breakfast, your brunch, lower demand, lighter menus, less alcohol, shorter events. It means a lower food and beverage minimum so that couples will be enticed to book at those times. So that's lever number 1, your timing tweaks. But I've got more. Lever 2, guest list and timeline cuts. So if you can imagine all of the levers and dials that we can adjust to create a unique wedding on a dashboard, a large guest list and a long reception duration are like turning up both the how many and how long dials on your budget dashboard at the same time. Every extra person over the duration of more hours multiplies your costs. And here's how that plays out. This is why every bit of advice you've ever heard from anyone and read and listened to, watch, whatever it might be, says that you've got to cull that guest list down, much further down than you think. The per head costs stack up very, very fast because most venues and caterers, they charge per person. So every extra guest, sometimes we call them heads, it's very sensitive, adds a full bundle of extra costs. It's not linear like you think it is. So, okay, we've got an extra person. We've got to think about literally their seat, where they're going to sit. They need a spot. They need a physical seat. They need an extra setting at the table, and there might need to be an extra table to fit them in. They need linen, a napkin. They need a meal. They need drinks. They need someone to serve them. And once your guest list creeps up from, say, 50 to 80, 90, even 100 guests, you're not just adding a few more meals, as your future mother-in-law so helpfully pointed out, you're almost doubling your catering, decor, rental and staffing needs. And this also means, another knock-on effect, you're going to need a bigger and 9 times out of 10 more expensive space. More guests need a bigger room. They need another marquee, or they need an outdoor setup that meets capacity and safety rules. So bigger spaces, they often have higher fees. Are you with me? And you may also need, as I said, more tables, chairs, linen, decor, heaters, fans, larger dance floor, more speakers, sometimes extra toilets or generators. It just keeps going. But then, as if to add insult to injury, your food and drink spend grows with both the headcount and time. So a long reception, 6 hours plus, means longer drink service, more top-ups, sometimes added cocktails or spirits as the night goes on, and often, because we're trying to serve these drinks responsibly, extra food rounds. So whether that's pre-dinner canapes, it's late-night snacks, dessert grazing boards, etc. Venues or caterers frequently price beverage packages by duration. So you've got a 4-hour package or you've got a 6-hour package. So tacking on an extra hour, an extra 2 hours, bumps up the cost per person again. The other thing to keep in mind is staffing costs rise with scale and length. So more guests need more wait staff, bar staff, chefs, and event coordinators to keep your guests happy. It ensures the smooth service, make sure everyone gets food, gets drinks, happy, safe environment. A longer event means paying those staff for more hours. This is evening, late night, penalty rates. It adds another cost to your invoice. And more time also, some people don't think about this, but it equals more invisible higher costs. So if your wedding goes for another hour, another 2 hours, it usually means longer venue hire, more hours for the DJ or the band, photographer, videographer, transport, childcare. If your guests are getting their kids looked after, it means even longer for that. So even if the price is packaged, that package is built around how long vendors must be on their feet working your event. So in short, a big guest list multiplies your per person costs, and a long reception multiplies your per hour costs. And when you're combining both, lots of people over many hours, you are compounding your expenses across almost every line item there. Venue, catering, bar, staffing, entertainment hire. And I'd love you to have a think about it. If you had to choose one of those, either the number of people on your guest list or the length of your reception, which of them would you find easier to do? To cut the guest list slightly or to shorten the reception by an hour? Love to know where your head is sitting with that. Okay, so that's lever number two. If you had a sweary, chocolate-addicted, wine-sipping fairy godmother who could help you with your wedding planning, what would you wish for? Perhaps no more waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, wondering what you've forgotten, or fretting about your RSVPs. Maybe no more spreadsheets or post-it notes or endless to-do lists. Well, I can help you with all of that. Wedsites is an Australian wedding website builder, guest management software, and wedding project planner all in one. Why is this such a game changer for you? Well, imagine everything to do with your wedding being in one place, updated in real time in the cloud, shareable to anyone else that's helping you, password protected for your guests, with notifications to tell you what needs to be done next and by when. It's amazing, right? I love how easy Wedsites is to set up and use, and how there are no ads on the platform yelling at you to spend more money on your wedding. To get started on your very own free wedding website, just head to wedsites.com. That's WEDSITES.com, and enter the code UNBRIDELYPOD, that's Unbridely POD, to get 10% off their paid planning tools. The link is in the show notes. This is lever 3. Some people don't think about this. It's actually a really good one. Service style swaps. Now, mate, if you're not sitting down already, sit down. I need to tell you this. I need you to understand. Seated, as in your guests sitting on seats at a table. Plated meals, which means a member of the wait staff brings an individual plate of your meal to you, places it in front of you. At dinner time, when most people expect a larger, warm, complete meal, costs up to 20 to 40% more per head than other options. just sitting down, having that plate and having it at night time. Many caterers openly price buffets and similar shared food service options lower than plated dinners. And there's a bloody good reason for it. It costs a lot to be able to do. Couples can cut venue-related costs by quite a bit by choosing shared options. Grazing tables, buffets, shared family-style platters instead of formal, seated, individually plated dinners. Because these shared styles simplify the service, they reduce the labour, they reduce the amount of rentals, you hire your cutlery, all the cutlery that you use for different courses, and often food spend as well per head. And here's how it works. So labour-intensive plating, God, if you've ever worked, and I have, in restaurants and hotels and things like that, and you've been in the kitchen and, you're doing a big event, many hundreds of people there, and you're lined up to carry these plates, it's an insane experience. I'd actually recommend it for everyone to, for perspective reasons, if for nothing else. But you're lining up with all your fellow waiters to go past the pass, which is the place where the plates come out and they're all sourced and everything, and told where to go by the supervisor coordinator, whoever's like running point guard. And it is a race. It is a very precise race, and you're trying to do it gracefully, and you're trying to not spill stuff, and you're trying to not look like you're running, but you're running. And yeah, the scale is it's hard to get your head around. But each plated meal that leaves the kitchen or catering tent, it requires individual cooking and or assembly. So your meats or your proteins, they're cooked to order, your sauces, your sides are portioned precisely because you've got to ensure consistency. The first person who gets the serve of the steak needs to be the same as the last person's steak. You want that consistency. Do you give these many roasted potatoes, that many roasted potatoes, whatever it might be? Plus, dedicated and fit waitstaff delivering those plates to every guest. It can double the staffing numbers versus other ways of serving food. Brunch buffets, family-style share platters, it lets guests self-serve from central tables, which in turn slashes server hours and labour costs from your budget. Your full table service needs more equipment and setup as well. So plated dinners, they require assigned seating. You've got to know where everyone is. Full place settings, as I was saying, you've got your cutlery per course, you've got plates per course, you've got glassware for all the different types of wine, and clearing the table, of course, between courses. It eats into rental fees because you're having to multiply that several times. Grazing tables, shared platters, all those sorts of things can run with simpler table settings and fewer specialised pieces. It reduces your hire fees and washing and handling costs as well. And there's none of that per place precision. It doesn't matter if Auntie Joyce wanted the gluten-free meal, she'll get the gluten-free meal. It's easy. No one has to know where Auntie Joyce is sitting either. So it can free up your tables for mingling. Now, obviously, this style of eating as well is much more casual than a lot of the weddings that I officiate as a celebrant. A lot of them are plated meals, formal sit-down meals. But if your vibe is more casual, then you can go down this route and it's going to fit seamlessly with your priorities. Longer service windows also extend the vendor time. So your multi-course dinner stretches, 2 to 3 hours, so you can actually digest your food, good thing, and it leaves pacing. So it's hard to imagine, but in a wedding timeline, we have to set when the entree comes out, when the main comes out, when that's cleared, when this is served, when the cake is cut, when the cake is served. Is there a dessert on top of that? Is there a cheese board? Like it just keeps going. So pacing for speeches, cake cutting, dances, which can bump your catering minimums and, push you into overtime as well. Your quick brunches and lunches can be wrapped up in a couple of hours. So, that can be nice. The other thing about shared meals, your buffets, your bain-maries, food that is bought and served in bulk, it means that food is prepared in larger trays or platters rather than as precise individual portions, which is more efficient for caterers to produce. It's quicker to prepare, to cook, to put out for service an entire tray of chicken Marylands rather than plating, I don't know, what would it be, 20, 30 portions, something like that, on individual plates and then have the waiters take them out. It makes more sense. And, you can imagine how that works. The bulk approach often brings the price per person down, especially for simple menus, comfort food, and it lets couples choose a smaller number of overall dishes instead of multiple coursed plates. And the portion flexibility is great. If someone doesn't want a big serve of something and another person does want a big serve of something, they help themselves. It's great. With plated dinners, you're locked into one full entree per person, one full main per person, one full dessert per person, even for lighter eaters. So with buffets or platters, you can design the spread so there's enough food without committing to 3 formal courses, which can reduce your total food order. In practical terms, swapping a 3-course plated dinner for a buffet, grazing, family-style menu often drops the catering line by hundreds of dollars for a 100-guest wedding. And because catering is usually bundled with a venue's minimum spend, this shift directly reduces what you need to spend to use that space. And lever number 4 is knowing your different venue types and knowing your package inclusions. So what we're looking at here is matching the scale and the style of your venue to your priorities. Cheaper types of venues often mean bring your own flexibility. Imagine a blank canvas space. We call these dry hire here in Australia. This is generally your lowest cost hire space because a lot of the time you're just paying for walls, a roof and a floor. It's bring your own everything, which is ideal if you love DIY decor, if someone else is doing your catering, maybe it's, within your family and you're big on planning. So I like to think about wedding venues in 3 different tiers, and each tier packages service by depth. So the first tier is your basic, is your dry hire, is all of your halls, your lofts, your warehouses, and it means the space only. Sometimes power, sometimes a basic setup. It's a typical inclusion, but not always. You need to be really willing to work very hard to bring it together into a functional space to enjoy food and beverage with friends and entertainment. So it's for a do-it-yourself pro. It's bring your own food and drinks. So understandably, venues charge for their in-house catering, their bar, their decor, of course. A dry hire venue skips that. So you source direct to your vendors, hopefully for lower rates, not always though, so you've got to be careful. Your base hire is cheap of just having the walls, as I said, the floor, the roof, and you can focus your spending on where it counts for you. So you can bring your own caterers, maybe food trucks, if that's economically viable for you. You could get your drinks, especially your alcoholic drinks, from wholesalers. So here in Australia, we've got a place called Dan Murphy's, and they let you return unopened cartons if you've got leftovers. So you can buy all your booze from there, return what you don't use. Brilliant. But just remember that you're hauling that stuff to and from, yeah? And then someone's got to serve it, and then you've got to have glasses to put it in. And, there are downsides to DIY. It depends on what you're looking for. So you can also scale to your needs. You can rent just the essentials. It might be a portable toilet. It might be a generator. It might be a very basic kitchen trailer. DIY savvy couples, they will thrift, they will borrow, and they keep their costs under venue packages. But it takes the work to do it. There are, of course, no food and beverage minimums. This can avoid a spend as well. But then the trade-off. is you need to be a planning pro. Like, you've got to really love it. So true blank slate venues demand excellent planning. Your spreadsheet, extras like delivery and setup costs, things like that. But generally, it would give you big savings for a hands-on engaged couple. It's ideal for creatives, and it's not for the set it and forget it types. So then the next level of venues that I like to think about is in the middle, in the semi-inclusive venue bracket. So semi-inclusive venues, they strike a sweet spot for engaged couples by bundling in the essential basics, like the space, of course, but then they'll go table, chairs, sometimes audiovisual equipment, sometimes setup, and generally keep the rate fairly low while letting you source the premium extras separately. So it covers the must-haves without forcing unwanted vendor recommendations or inclusions. It can give you some BYO flexibility on big ticket items. You can skip the venue catering and bar, and it will reduce the amount of coordination time versus a dry hire venue. You'll have one contract that's going to cover most of your wedding stuff, and then you'll build your vendors up and around it. And the top tier, the premium or all-inclusive tier of wedding venues, means everything you can need. Your full catering, your full bar, sometimes as well your DJ, decor, sometimes a planner or coordinator. It means that you have hands-off luxury. And so you've got to wonder, how does a premium or all-inclusive venue save a couple money? And the answer is, sometimes it saves you things other than money. And depending on where you are in your life, that could be of more value to you. Premium, all-inclusive venues save couples money through bulk efficiencies, predictability, and the convenience that offset the upfront price. So it's not always money that you're saving, but also, and more so, your time and your stress. So when a venue bundles up the space, catering, bar, staffing, basic decor, AV, toilets, into one fixed package, it means that they can also leverage the venue's scale for discounts that would be not available to just one couple planning their wedding. So if you like the thought of the finer things, an all-inclusive venue might be the best way to make it happen. You're saving time and stress, one contract versus lots. It can free many, many, many hours of planning. You've got predictability. You've got fixed costs, which cap the overruns. And you've got quality control. It means you've got vetted pros to ensure a seamless day without you running around and finding them. They're doing that for you. So there you have it. 4 powerful levers to wrestle back control of your wedding venue costs amid the cost of living crunch. Number 1 was smart timing tweaks. Number 2, trimming that guest list and refining the timeline. Number 3, swapping out plated meals for shared alternatives. And number 4, hunting for a venue type and or package that suits your needs, your skills, and the time you have available without any extras that you don't want or need. And you're not alone in this. Almost every couple comes to a time in their planning when they find the need to redraw their dream wedding more affordably. You can do it, I promise. I'd love to hear about what you're planning and how you've managed to claw back some of your budget. DM me on Instagram at Unbridely. And until next time, celebrate your people.
That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.